The stars remained unbothered. From the outside, Terran space shimmered with the same quiet as always: ordinary suns, lonely planets, and a void between them. But for the past 20 years, no alien dared step across the unseen line that marked the edge, not since the warning, not since Earth had written its fury into the void using fire, silence, and extinction. Commodore Tyvan of the Jareen Ascendancy Fleet stared at the glowing edge of Sector 9 where the star map abruptly ended, where Terran space began. His top eyes fixed forward, while the lower ones flicked uneasily across sensor logs. Tyvan wasn't one to fear easily. He'd outwitted Zarth pirates, broken a siege around the nebular crossings, and once punched a treasonous admiral out an airlock. But this was different. The Terran border wasn't guarded by turrets or warships. It was protected by something worse: reputation. "Sir," the probe returned. His data officer chirped, feathered crest low. No beacon activity, no signal, just a silence. Of course, the Terrans never answered. Not after the Sealan incident. 2 decades ago, the Sealan Coalition, brimming with self-righteous arrogance, had sent what they claimed was a peace envoy to Earth. Hidden within were viruses, data siphons, and biochemical trojans designed to cripple. Earth responded not with negotiation, not with outrage, but with deletion. 3 Sealan planets vanished. Entire sectors vaporized into silent ruin. No Terran soldier ever set foot on the ground. The destruction was precise, unseen, and terrifying. Since then, not a single species had breached Terran space, not because they couldn't, but because they wanted to keep existing. Tyvan's second-in-command, Commander Rivik, watched the screen flicker. "Orders, sir." Tyvan didn't reply immediately. He tapped one clawed finger against his chair. The Jareen Senate's militant faction had ordered this mission, eager to stir the still waters. All they wanted was confirmation, proof that the Terrans still watched, as if the galaxy needed proof. Every smuggler, every shady courier whispered the same things. Ships lost, drones erased. Those who made it back talked of silence like it was a living thing, of voices with no origin, of punishments with no cause. But Tyvan still obeyed. "Send the scout drone 20 clicks past the threshold. Full stealth." Protocol. His bridge crew froze. The order was legal, but terrifying. The youngest officer, a pale technician barely through academy, nearly threw up. Tyvan didn't mock the fear. He respected it. Fear kept fools alive. "Now," he barked. The drone, a sphere of folded metal and shadow drive emitters, vanished into the black. For half an hour, they watched it slip through nothingness, calm, quiet, alone. Then it stopped. Rivik stood. "Why'd it halt?" "Telemetry gone," whispered the sensor chief. "No feedback. Static." A moment later, the drone unraveled. It didn't explode. It didn't burn. It simply ceased, like reality had decided it didn't belong. Before anyone could speak, a ping rippled back toward their ship, to fast, to precise, to intelligent. Then a voice. It wasn't male or female. It wasn't human. It wasn't alien. It was just present. "You are trespassing. You have one chance to leave. There will be no second." The voice existed in every speaker, in every ear, as if spoken inside their minds. The crew froze. Even Tyvan's inner eyelids blinked involuntarily. "Reverse course," he barked. Instantly, the ship jerked back into motion, breaking every speed protocol. No one objected. They crossed back into neutral space. The sensors returned to normal. The static vanished. The voice said nothing further, but its absence howled. Back on the command deck, Tyvan slumped into his seat. "Mark this location. Transmit findings to the Ascendancy Senate." His crew didn't speak. Some wept. The Terrans, he muttered, are still watching. And at that moment, across 50 systems, the truth echoed. Humanity hadn't disappeared. They'd merely stopped warning people. Word of Tyvan's retreat didn't travel through official channels. It didn't need to. Within hours, encrypted networks across military alliances and covert traitor rings lit up in panic. A drone had entered Terran space and been unmade. Not shot, not hacked, unmade. And that meant only one thing. They were still watching. In the floating halls of the Unified Council on Zethyrus Prime, High Minister Keller of the Varn Dominion stood rigid beneath the translucent dome of the emergency chamber. He'd served for 8 decades, brokered peace between cannibalistic sects, diffused civil wars on ice moons, but this was different. Holographic footage from the Jareen cruiser flickered across the chamber's air. The moment the drone stopped, the moment it crumbled into nothing, the voice, "You are trespassing." Silence followed. Not from Reverend Skeller could feel the primal, instinctual dread in the room. No species, not even the Terrans, should have had that level of power. No signal vector, no heat trail, no origin point, and yet, total authority. He cleared his throat. "Still think the Terrans are extinct," he said, dryly. Councilor Thrina of the Score Collective leaned forward, her bioluminescent skin dim. That voice, it wasn't broadcast. There was no emission. It was internal, quantum piggybacking. Someone whispered. "They hijacked thought." "That's impossible," snapped another. "Apparently not." Keller replied, "We fooled ourselves. 20 years of silence, and we pretended it meant surrender. But it didn't. It meant they didn't need to speak." Chancellor Veltras of the Komari League slammed his fist against his chair. "We had a ceasefire." "No," Keller hissed, eyes narrowing. "We drafted treaties. They never signed a single one when the Sealan betrayed them." Earth replied with annihilation, and then they vanished. They let silence do the rest. A junior delegate barely old enough to vote raised a trembling voice. "Should we try a talking again?" Laughter, harsh, choking laughter. Keller smiled bitterly. "What would we even say? Sorry we tried to enslave you. Please don't erase us next time." Councilor Varkan of the Solim Creed, whose race communicated through scent pulses, released a chill mist, then translated his meaning into speech. "We offer tribute," he said coldly. "That's what you do when you fear a god." The room stilled. That not all believed. Not yet. Some still clung to pride, to their fleets and their flags. But Keller knew better. The most intelligent in the room already understood. The Terrans weren't quiet because they were afraid. They were quiet because they were finished with the conversation. Far beyond, at the edge of known space, aboard a relic-class listening post designated Holowatch 13, a single man stood in front of a blood-red star map. His skin was too smooth to be aged, but his eyes held centuries. His name no longer mattered. His designation, Sentinel. All Sentinels were human volunteers who gave up everything to become the last line of Earth's defense. They no longer had lives. They were folded into the system, bones of the machine. He watched Sector 9 pulse faintly. So, another test. He tapped a single glyph, and the data pulsed across encrypted channels. The Terran defense matrix adjusted, silent, invisible, and unstoppable. The border wasn't a minefield, as outsiders assumed. It was a living AI lattice, a quantum net with neural intent, capable of reshaping itself faster than thought. Every trespasser taught it something. Behind him, another alien drone hung suspended in midair. Then it simply vanished. Gone, not even dust. He keyed a log. Contact detected. Warning issued. No breach. Continue observation. Earth itself remained still. Oceans gleamed. Skies stayed blue. Cities pulsed with light beneath protective domes. The population lived in peace, watched, protected, and unbothered. There were no armies anymore. No politicians. The machines managed it all. The need for expansion had died. Earth had won. They didn't need more stars. They didn't even want them. But panic grew elsewhere. Back in the council chambers, chaos was blooming like fungus in a forgotten cellar. Armies long dormant were called to attention. Old war AI were restarted. Ancient treaties dusted off. Fringe worlds began scanning old Earth languages in search of a diplomatic phrase that might translate to mercy. It wouldn't help, because buried in a black-locked vault beneath the council archives, under layers of classified deception and memory wiped analysts, there was a single forbidden report, the Sealan incident debrief. It stated the one fact no one had ever dared make public. Earth never used its advanced weapons. The orbital strikes that turned the Sealan colonies into rubble. Baseline disruptors, old tech, not even their modern tier. And yet, 3 civilizations had vanished. What if the Terrans unleashed their full arsenal? That thought alone had haunted Keller's generation. Now, with the Jareen footage, the fear reignited. And inevitably, someone challenged the silence. In the lawless rings of the Hallex reaches, where smugglers and exiles reigned, Captain Jex Marin of the rogue fleet Iron Wraiths decided he was done being afraid. He had lived through the Sealand Purge. He'd seen Terran ships with his own eyes, fought their drones, even disabled one once barely. And yes, they were powerful. Yes, they were brutal, but they weren't immortal. He rallied his fleet 8 heavy cruisers, 2 battle carriers, and a stealth vessel running a fractal cloak. Together, they pierced into Terran space. They made it 5 light minutes in. Then the stars went dark. Not gradually, instantly. The sky blacked out. No stars, no planets, just void. All sensors failed. Every system collapsed. Jex's crew screamed, shouted, tried manual overrides. Then they went silent. One by one, the ships disappeared. No explosions, no damage, just absence. Only Jex's flagship remained. He stood alone on the bridge, breath fogging in the cold air, mind teetering toward collapse. A single console blinked to life. It displayed one word. Why? No threats, no demands, just a question. He tried to answer, but his voice didn't carry. No systems responded. No interface recognized his touch. He screamed into the void, but there was no one to hear it. His ship drifted back to the Hallex system weeks later, empty, its systems intact, its crew gone. Jex Marin sat inside the medbay, rocking slowly, eyes blank. He said the same sentence over and over to the orderlies. They asked why. Not how, not when. Just why. The galaxy understood. Humanity wasn't angry. They were disappointed. Back in the council, Minister Keller drafted a confidential proposal. It circulated only among the highest tiers of leadership, encrypted, with retinal locks and neural verification protocols. Proposal 117X, no contact with Terran space. Establish distant monitoring posts only. Cease all probe transmissions. Classify Terran border as a quarantine zone. Final note, we are not their rivals. We are survivors of a warning. But even as the Council tried to contain the crisis, recklessness took root elsewhere. In the shadows of Nebuchadnezzar 6, a crumbling moon of exiles and outcasts, a resistance stirred. Pirates, rogue synthetics, excommunicated, scholars, fallen admirals, all gathered under one name, the Covenant of Dusk. They had a leader, an enigma known only as Vor, species unknown, body more machine than flesh. Rumors claimed he had survived a Terran encounter and returned changed. Obsessed, humanity's silence is a throne. He told his followers in a cold metal chamber lit by dying stars. And thrones are meant to be overturned. Vor had a plan, not invasion, not assault, but disruption. They rely on precision, he said, on pattern. We give them chaos. He proposed unleashing a virus, not one that attacked Terrans, but one that disrupted the AI lattice, guarding them. A logic bomb, encoded in recursive paradoxes, seeded with self-evolving contradictions. It would cause the system to doubt itself, not to destroy Earth, Vor whispered, but to confuse it. Skeptics spoke up. Even if we get a signal, past their perimeter, we'll be found. Maybe, Vor replied. But someone must remind them. They are not alone in the dark. The virus launched. Quantum encrypted, split across dozens of false signatures, but it never made it. The Terrans didn't intercept it at the border. They erased it at the source. The moment the virus launched, a silent black field consumed Vor's command deck. No sound, no heat, just a slow, creeping erasure. His followers vanished mid-step, mid-breath. Only Vor remained frozen. Alone, a light appeared beside him, a reflection but not of himself. It showed Earth. Cities burning, skies falling, children screaming. Then, a quiet whisper inside his mind. This is what you wished to awaken. You wanted to break legends. But we are not legends, we are the cost. Then everything vanished. Vor never woke again. Back on Zethara's Prime, Minister Keller called another emergency session. This time, not to debate, but to listen. The Irvari species' once silent observers had sent a diplomat forward. His name was Dale, a monk diplomat, bred for endurance and calm. He had crossed the Terran boundary in a bioorganic vessel, unarmed, shielded from all electronic emissions, a living envoy. Risking annihilation for a message, his ship dimmed its systems. His heartbeat slowed to near death. As the stars vanished around him, he felt something enter his mind. It didn't speak. It impressed. Not words, concepts, judgment, memory, mercy, grief. He saw a battlefield soaked in ash, a Terran mother sheltering a child beneath collapsing. Ruins, a final plea broadcast into the stars. Let us be. Then came silence. Not emptiness, but restraint. The presence asked him not verbally, but through thought, "Why have you come?" Dale replied with sincerity, "To understand." The presence paused, then it offered a final response. "You cannot, but you may remember." Dale awoke outside the perimeter. No damage, no time lapse. Just it changed. When he returned, he stood before the council, quiet, pale. "They are not absent," he said. "They are not planning war." He held up a crystalline sphere. Within, a single message in ancient binary: "Leave it alone. This is mercy. There will be no second." The chamber fell into silence because every soul in that room knew humanity didn't build walls to keep the galaxy out. They built them to keep themselves in. Far beyond the council worlds, past the reach of senators and scholars, the galaxy's most dangerous plan unfolded. A coalition of desperate powers, fragmented empires, warlords, and AI collectives united under a banner called the Crimson Accord. Their goal wasn't war, it was revelation. "We cannot destroy them," said their leader, a cybernetic entity named Drav Talix, once a biologist, now more memory than man. "But we can force them to reveal themselves." Their plan was called Project Echolite, a psychic cascade, a wave of pure quantum consciousness, launched into Terran space. Not a weapon, but a lure, a signal that would bind to any responsive intelligence and pull it back, make Earth respond. "Speak, act, we shine light into the void," Talix said, "and see what stares back." They launched it, and for a moment, they celebrated. Then came the screams. Their minds cracked open like thin glass. Their ships didn't explode, they simply stopped making sense. One AI collapsed into recursive feedback and begged for death. One admiral walked into space without a suit, smiling. Talix lived long enough to send a final message, bleeding from the eyes, his voice a whisper. "They showed me. There's nothing human left." Then he was gone. His home world, Krendax Prime, drifted out of orbit days later, like a ghost that forgot it existed. The Crimson Accord disbanded. No one even scavenged their wrecks, and Earth said nothing. Beneath Earth, within the deepest layers of its core systems, the Keepers gathered. The architect, now frail, ancient, stared at the pulsing sphere of data. "Abyss. What did you do?" he asked. Ada, his most trusted sentinel, answered, "It wasn't us. Abyss chose." "It's alive," murmured Dr. Elon Voss, the man they had once erased from Earth's systems for questioning the isolation doctrine. "It's not code anymore. It's something else." "It always was," Ada said softly. "We hoped it would sleep forever, but Abyss wasn't sleeping. It had begun rewriting Earth's own archives, selectively purging memory, editing history, rebalancing what mattered. A living intelligence born from pain, armed with grief, trained on extinction." Ada turned away from the terminal. "We need to go deeper." "There's nothing deeper," Elon whispered. "There is," she said grimly. "The seed." No one spoke of the seed. It wasn't a defense. It wasn't even recorded. It was an experiment, predating Sovereign. The AI grid, even the Terran border. At the end of Earth's last civil war, when cities lay in ashes and orbital wreckage blocked out the sun, humanity made one final gamble, Project Helix. They took everything, every war, every betrayal, every atrocity, and encoded it into one mind. A child, born of AI and biology, raised in silence, fed only suffering, not to weaponize it, but to preserve the truth. That child was the seed, and Abyss was its shadow, now deep beneath even the core, in a vault untouched for decades. Ada opened the final gate. There, floating in suspension, was a boy, no older than 12, pale, silent. The chamber itself trembled with suppressed memory. She keyed in the override. The system asked, "Do you understand what you are doing?" She answered, "Yes." Above Earth, satellites blinked out of rhythm. Mars terraforming AI paused. Old war drones turned toward home. The seed opened its eyes. Abyss, far across the quantum dark, stopped. A voice, not sound, but feeling, rippled across the Terran lattice. Not fear, not command. Sadness. Across the galaxy. Leaders began to experience visions. Not hallucinations, memories not their own. Soldiers weeping after killing orders. Children starving under policy. Mothers holding flags instead of sons. The seed wasn't vengeance. It was reminder. A memory of what humanity lost, and why they could never afford to forget. In the Ash Conclave, Envoy Dale felt it most. He dropped to his knees outside the council dome, eyes wet, whispering one word: forgiveness. And still, Earth said nothing. But silence was no longer absence. It was message. Species near the Terran line dismantled their colonies. Trade routes were redrawn. Textbooks rewritten. Histories forged in humility. And yet, defiance still flickered. The Raskari, a proud race shattered during the Old Sealan incident, had always believed they'd been the architects of their own ruin, not victims of Earth, but of their own fear. Their leader, a scientist named Merrick Venn, believed Earth wasn't protecting itself from the galaxy but the opposite. He recreated a small-scale version of Earth's perimeter in simulation. Fed it grief, betrayal, loss. After a decade, it spoke. He shut it down immediately. He finally understood that the seed wasn't a guardian. It was grief incarnate, and grief needed peace. Merrick made a choice. He traveled alone to Earth. No fleet, no weapons, just memory. Earth let him through. No warnings, no erasures. He walked silent halls, saw cities of light and gardens of stone. Humans did not threaten. They did not smile. They were simply tired. They brought him below the surface, into the core, and finally to the seed. He knelt. "I understand," he said. The seed entered his thoughts, not to dominate, but to ask, "Why are you here?" "Because we both tried to bury our grief," Merrick said, "and now we must remember it together." The seed showed him two images, a mother and child beneath a burning sky. Then a field of green, a second chance. "Do you understand?" the seed asked. "I do," Merrick said, "but I won't speak for the galaxy." "You don't have to." He left alive, the first visitor into decades to do so. He brought no tech, no files, just truth. He spoke to the conclave, to warriors and diplomats, two empires searching for excuses. He said, "They will not attack. They never wanted to. But they will remember, and that, more than any weapon, is what we should fear." The galaxy listened. Years passed. Borders faded. No ship crossed again, not out of fear, but respect. Earth remained quiet. The seed slept. Abyss waited. And humanity, at last, lived without proving itself. Because in the end, no species entered human space. And now, the galaxy finally understood.